All right, good morning. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Anna Imagination, creator of Operation Imagination, the fear and anxiety coaching program that I have. The details are listed below if you're interested. This morning, we're going to go ahead and go over some meditation. I have a Facebook group. You are more than welcome to join it. It's Meditation for Beginners. So, a little background, some brief history. Every time I've gotten into meditation, every time I've looked into a class for it, I find that it's not very beginner friendly. There's a lot of lingo, there's a lot of things that are discussed that, for me, when I was starting out, went over my head. And when I talk to people about it afterward, I hear a lot of information from meditative wannabes where they say, I want to get into it, but I don't quite know where to start. It never really worked for me. It didn't feel right. It was weird. It didn't do anything. I tried it and I failed. So, the purpose of this series, the Meditation for Beginners, is it- to bridge the gap between people who want to join and are curious and people who are actually practicing it. Once you get into meditation, there's a lot of material out there. There's a lot of classes, and you pretty much you're good to go. But it's getting over that first step that's really a challenge for a lot of people. It was for me. And so this is no lingo, no fancy talk. We're not going to talk about vinyasa. Is that yoga or meditation? Regardless, we're going to talk instead about just some basics. I am in a seated position right now, and one of the things that it doesn't matter if you're sitting, if you're squatting, if you're laying down, even it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you fall asleep. The goal with meditation when you're starting out, and I have said this a lot, I'm going to continue to say it, is the goal you have when you begin is not going to be the same goal you have when you're advanced or intermediate. In fact, in 30 days and 60 days, your goal is going to change with meditation. Right now, my goal is I use meditation to change how I believe and how I think so I can change my behavior. But that is advanced meditation. And what we're going to do instead when you're beginning and when you're starting out, your goal should only be building a habit. And I do mean that that is it. That is all you should be concerning yourself with is establishing a habit and getting into the daily ritual of practicing. You're not going to feel it right away. In fact, I like in meditation, this is very true, so true, no matter what stage you're at. Meditation is like sitting down and having a cup of coffee with yourself. Now, imagine that it's equivalent to sitting down and having a cup of coffee with your aunt. Now, the first time you do it, it's going to be weird and awkward. And you're going to have to keep going. And you're going to have to, your mom's going to keep saying, go have coffee with your aunt. And you're like, oh my God, it's so weird and it's awkward. And you get there and it's like, how's school? It's good. And you're thinking, oh my God, will this never end? I don't know this person. This is weird and uncomfortable. But after like the third week, maybe the fourth week, after some time, it stops being awkward. It becomes familiar. It becomes comfortable. You start to lower your guard, and it becomes second nature to visit your aunt and have that cup of coffee. Meditation is exactly like that. You're having a cup of coffee with yourself. So it is going to be awkward at first. It's going to be really weird because you're not used to sitting down and having a conversation with yourself. And really, long term, that's what meditation is. You are talking to yourself. You are turning off all the distraction. You are no longer going to turn on the radio, crank the music, and crank the distraction. Meditation is removing all the distractions that you purposely put in place so you can finally listen to your inner voice, so you can stop running away from your problems. That's scary for a lot of people. So if you're going into this with a lot of baggage that you haven't discussed with yourself, it's going to come up. Be prepared. So just it's going to come up. This is like all that shadow work you've been putting off. Yeah, it's time to collect. But it doesn't happen right away. It just makes you aware. And when you start off, this is all about just getting into the habit. Now, there are a lot of health benefits from meditation. The first one right away is lowered blood pressure. You're going to find lower stress levels, but you're not going to feel these things. These are happening in your body because you are increasing the oxygen intake to your brain. So your body's going to feel all the effects long before you do. So even if you don't enjoy it, even if you go into it going, I'm not doing any of the shadow work, I like my distractions and I don't want to confront my past. Okay, at least do it for the, health benefits if you want. So, and honestly, I think that's like one of the primary reasons why people quit is because if you aren't ready to do shadow work, when you meditate, it's going to come up. And a lot of people don't know what to do when the shadow work starts to come up. That's where I come in. And we'll go over that. But for now, we're just going to focus on getting started. So, we're not going to call this meditation because that's a word with a lot of expectation in it. We're going to throw all that away and we're going to call this instead mindful breathing. Mindful breathing is you just being aware that you're breathing. One of my favorite movie moments is actually in The Karate Kid, the first movie, when Mr. Miyagi is talking to Daniel-san, and Daniel-san is stressing and he's like flailing his arms and he's upset about school and he's upset about his girlfriend. And Mr. Miyagi quietly listens to him. They're outside and he goes, Daniel-san, breathe. And they put their hands together and he just teaches him to take 3 breaths. And afterwards, he says, how do you feel? And Daniel-san says, better. That's what we're going for here. Just breathe. In fact, my Calm app, this is the app that I use every time I pull it up. Every time I pull it up, it says, just breathe. And I just go, oh yeah, just breathe. And that you're at that sweet spot when the meditation starts to work. When the thought of just breathing calms you down because the breath becomes a reminder that you have control. It's quite powerful. It's amazing. But that comes later. Again, we're beginners. So we're going to go over this very quickly. Well, not quickly. We're not going to rush it. So mindful breathing is just being aware of the breath, just being conscious of it. So we're just going to think about breathing. Now, when I started off breathing, I really struggled. My mind was all over the place. And this is what a lot of meditation gurus talk about is your mind wanders. What is it? Bring it back to the breath. And again, that I felt like I was failing. I felt like I wasn't doing it right. I felt pressure. So we're going to start by, for a beginner, your job is not to worry about what your brain does. Your brain is going to do weird stuff. Your brain's going to go places. That's fine. It's not supposed to be clear. Meditation is not supposed to clear your mind. This is the first lie that you learn when you start off with meditation. So get that out of your head. Meditation does not clear your mind. It doesn't. Once you get rid of that expectation, I mean, it does something else, but that's advanced and we're not going to talk about it. Once you get rid of that expectation, it takes a lot of pressure off. So your goal, shake out your hands, please, is just to be aware that you are breathing. And do this every day, consistently, because your goal is to establish the habit. Let's say it takes 30 days. You are going to prioritize this and establish the habit. That's it. And it's not going to feel like anything. It's going to be like having a weird, awkward cup of coffee with your aunt, but do it. And we're going to be mindful about our breathing. So, to help us stay focused on the breath, I like to count. I find that counting is the most effective way for me to stay focused and mindful on the breath. I like to do counts of 4, hold for 4, and then exhale on 4. When I breathe in through your nose. When you breathe out, through your mouth. As far as hands go, make sure you're comfortable. You see this a lot in meditation. This actually means something, but it's advanced. This also means something, and this means something. We're not going to do that. Om also means something. We're not going to do that either. Advanced. What we're going to do is shake out our hands, roll your shoulders a little bit, and relax. If you have any tension in your neck, well, I pity you because so do I, and that's the hardest place for me to get my tension out is in my neck and my shoulders. So roll your shoulders a little bit. Take a couple beginning breaths. And then we're going to do 3 breaths. I'm going to count. If I mess up my count, don't worry about it. Ready? Okay, breathe in through your nose. So inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're going to do that. Count it in your head because I'm going to be counting it in mine, but I'm going to breathe now. So 3 breaths. Ready? 3 more. I'm not going to count with my hands this time. And that is it. What we are really doing when we meditate is we are conditioning ourselves to pause when we panic, to pause when we're stressed, to breathe, and to take ourselves out of a stressful situation so that we can regain control over our emotions and ourselves and continue forward. It is really powerful to have a tool like that you can push pause on the situation. It's like when you're in a car and the traffic isn't behaving the way you want it to. I don't think we ever feel the most out of control than when we're driving because we want to go A and New York City traffic doesn't allow for that. So we're in a position where we feel really out of control. And if you are already in a place in your life where you don't feel control, that can really bring out our rage and our worst part of ourselves. So by meditating in the car, it's weird, but I started meditating in the car because I needed a catalyst on the outside to trigger a reminder. Hey, you need to meditate now. So I would get in the car and I would use my car keys in my hand as a reminder, you need to meditate. And I turned my morning commute into my morning meditation, in addition to my silent sit down breathing. And I learned very quickly, I conditioned myself to associate driving with meditation so that while I was in this situation that I couldn't control, I was the entire time practicing control, patience, and pause. Really good exercise. I cannot emphasize this enough. Meditation and driving is like, and what's amazing is I started to associate the stress with meditation so that when I felt my meditation rise, when I felt my stress rise, it reminded me of being in the car and it triggered, I had conditioned myself, Pavlov dog, to to meditate instinctively when I felt that stress. When I stopped meditating, it all fell apart. I'm meditating for 7 years, and when I stopped meditating, it fell apart. Not right away. It was like after a week of not meditating, my irritation, my anxiety increased, my fear came back. And after 2 weeks of not meditating, it all started to unravel. So it doesn't matter how good you are, it is imperative that you keep practicing. If you are starting out, you haven't developed that conditioned response in your brain yet to associate stress with meditation. And one of my most clever parenting techniques was, unfortunately, I didn't figure this out until I had my third child, but one of my most clever parenting techniques was teaching my youngest to meditate under stress. So that when she came to me upset, I started every time with, okay, you're upset, validate the child. And then I followed it up with, now take a deep breath. And I conditioned her and I conditioned myself so that when she came to me upset, validate, I see you're upset. We're going to talk about it. First, deep breath. To this day, 15 years later, when she's upset, she takes a deep breath. It's amazing to watch. She just will be in a conversation, we'll be having a heated conversation, and I will watch her go, to this day, 15 years later. So, brainwashing is very good when it's done with something productive like meditation and breathing. So that's my parenting technique. Teach your children to breathe. Teach yourselves to breathe. Teach yourself to associate stress with breathing. But for now, just teach yourself to sit down and breathe. 15 minutes a day. If you can't do that, 3 breaths. Every time you feel stressed, take a breath. So on a side note, I have an hypothesis. I am a firm believer that the reason why cigarette smoking is so addiction and so calming isn't because people are addicted to the nicotine. Yes, that's part of it, absolutely. But you're actually inhaling, which is breathing. So when you're taking a cigarette break, when you're stressed, think about this. Really think about this. You're actually taking time out to breathe deeply, repeatedly for 5 minutes. So take away the cigarette. If you're struggling with addiction, try this. Take away the cigarette and replace it instead. Well, you're not replacing it, you're already doing it. Just do it without the tobacco in your mouth. Take some deep breaths. Now, mine was marijuana. I would like grab marijuana and tote up. And same process came in my mind of, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm inhaling deeply with the added benefit of the marijuana. So it's just interesting how, and then when people give up smoking, they're not just giving up the nicotine. This is important. They're also giving up their breathing session, their 5 minutes of breath work, which they need, which is very good. So if you're quitting smoking, just remove the cigarette. Don't go to the smoker's cage. Don't go to your designated smoking spot and pull out a cigarette. Go to a different location, but still breathe. Still inhale. Still deep breath like you're inhaling that cigarette. And that, if you've ever smoked, that is the kind of breathing that you are looking for when you do meditation. You are deep breath, hold. I'm thinking about my weed right now. Exhale. It's deep breathing. So hopefully that'll help. But weird that I ended it on that kind of a note. Didn't realize that was where it's going to go. But hey, if it helps, it helps. Thank you so much for joining. All my links are below. And this is also part of Operation Imagination, if that's a program you'd be interested in, where I cover fear and anxiety coaching. So thank you so very much for joining me today. And I would like to get into the habit of like doing these daily videos and just talking on meditation and walking you through it. And after I post these for 30 days, I'm going to get into the next stage of meditation. But first, 30 days of meditation. Make sure you set your alarm. Make sure you are consistent with the behavior. Thank you again so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.